Well, good morning, friends. This is Crystal here from Homemaking on the Homestead, and in today's video, we're going to talk about pantry meal ideas to go along with that pantry challenge, freezer challenge that I've been doing since the beginning of January. So a lot of the things that I have on my counter here are things that I have canned myself, but most of it you can have alternatives to that, whether it's already canned food or you cook something in advance and freeze it. So what I want to do with you guys today is to kind of take you along on a look of some of the items that I pulled out as I was getting ready to do some menu planning and thinking, just kind of bringing together what can I make this week based on what do I already have and what kind of things are in my refrigerator that need to be used up. So typically when I do this, I will bring out foods from my pantry, my refrigerator, sometimes my freezer, and just set them on the counter and get those creative juices going. I also bring out some of my bulk staples and just say, okay, what can we throw together this week or for the next couple of weeks? My goal for the next couple of weeks is to not have to utilize anything new, but try to take advantage of mostly items that are already on my pantry shelf. So I'm going to get going here. All right, let me show you what I've got here. Well, first of all, this jar of pepperoncinis has been opened and it's been sitting in there a long time. I think I needed it for a recipe, and for some reason I bought a ridiculously huge jar of them. So now it's like, okay, let me think about what I can do with that. I have ramen noodles. I like to use those in Asian dishes. I don't typically use the seasoning packet that comes with them, but I like using them for just an Asian type noodle. I also have 3 packets of pasta that is open, so I like to try to use that. I have some fettuccine, some rotini, and a few elbow macaroni noodles. And back here you can see I have some black beans, I have some pinto beans, and I have some long grain basmati rice. Those are great staples. I always have that in my pantry and always have a good supply of them because there is so much you can do with that. The next thing I want to share with you is some of my own home canned foods. So I have a jar of spaghetti sauce. I have actually several jars of spaghetti sauce that I have canned myself. I have several jars of hamburger that I have canned. I have pork butt that I have canned, and I still have several jars of that. And I also have some bone-in thighs and legs to use. And I still have a few jars. We've actually eaten, I think I canned 7 of these jars of ham and bean soup, and we really enjoy that, so I still have a couple jars of those. So I'm going to see what I can do to incorporate this also into a meal this week. And I've got several jars of tuna fish on my shelf. I know a lot of these meats you guys can buy, like the canned tuna, obviously. You can buy canned chicken. I've even seen canned pork and beef and things like that at Costco. So you don't have to have it homemade if you wanted to stock your pantry to use some of these ideas I'm going to share. But that's just kind of a basic rundown. I've also, this was another one. I have a couple jars of these cans of crushed pineapple that I've had in my freezer for a long time, and so I got a few ideas with these, so we will be doing that. I also have things like tomato sauce, tomato paste, that I can incorporate into these meals. All right, now that you kind of get an idea of what I have, let me give you all my ideas. I think there's just like this overwhelming number of recipes on the internet for tuna noodle casserole made in a million different ways, and frankly, I've pretty much had my fill of that in my life, so I'm always trying to find something beyond that and tuna fish sandwiches, although I do love tuna fish sandwich. So my idea is to make tuna ramen, and it actually, I think, will work out well. I'm going to just simply saute up some onions and some garlic, add my tuna to that, and then cook up my ramen noodles, mix those together, add some extra soy sauce and maybe a little ginger and just kind of sesame oil and just kind of get that those flavors all mingled well. And there you go, tuna ramen. The other tuna meal I'm working on is kind of like a tuna rice bowl. So it's very similar to the ramen idea, with the rice having some extra veggies added to it, kind of like stir fry, and then adding the tuna with extra soy sauce and all that. So both of my tuna meal ideas are going to be more like on the Asian side. We love sushi, so I'm kind of trying to go, minus the seaweed, with a little bit of Asian flair sushi thinking behind it. So there's a lot of ways that I have used my chicken. It's basically, I take it out of the jar, I take the meat off the bone, and then I use it in any way that I would normally use cooked chicken. One of my ways is to take the meat from that, take one of my open bags of pasta, and I will make chicken noodle soup with that. That's super easy. My meals do need to have extra spices added. It will also need to have things like onions and celery and peppers and typical things that I keep in my refrigerator for every shopping trip. I always try to make sure I have plenty of that stuff, so I always have flavor and things to work with when I do cook something like this. Another use for this that is on my list is to make a chicken pot pie. Basically, I take the meat off, I make chicken gravy, and in the chicken gravy, I add peas and carrots. I know some people like to add potatoes. I don't usually do that because it seems like the gravy gets all kind of sucked up by the potatoes, and then it's kind of dry. So I skip that. I just go heavy on the chicken and the peas and carrots. And peas and carrots are a staple in my freezer all the time. I buy several bags at a time because I do add them to things like that. And then I can put all of that into a homemade pie crust, top it, bake it in the oven, and we have chicken pot pie. I also have this full package of cream cheese and a half package of cream cheese. So for sure the half package needs to be eaten like pronto. The other thing I can do with my chicken is make chicken Alfredo, which uses the cream cheese and butter. And I have a recipe of that on my vlog that I will try to link some of these recipes below. That would also be a great use for these fettuccine noodles too. So I could do chicken Alfredo with fettuccine noodles. My next one is canned hamburger, and I have a lot of canned hamburger. So the fat does kind of rise to the top, which can just be spooned out. Also, it always ends up looking like there's more than there actually is. Once I take the lid off, the fats just kind of come down around the edges, and it's mostly just hamburger right there and all the way to the top almost. So I will spoon that off. Occasionally I'll just spoon that out and throw it into my frying pan and saute up any onions or anything like that right into the fat that's already there. There is like no end to things you can make with canned hamburger already cooked. One of those is, I did forget to show you these, so I just grabbed it out of my pantry, is I have canned pinto beans in quart jars. I also have some canned chicken broth, and that along with my hamburger, some salsa, some corn, taco seasoning, could make a really easy, quick taco soup. And as a side note, before I started canning hamburger, I would just cook up large quantities and put them into Ziploc bags. It's about 2.5 cups of cooked hamburger is equal to a pound. So you can just cook up a big, huge pot of hamburger, put 2.5 cups into Ziploc bags and put it in the freezer. So it can be used the same as what I'm saying about the can. Another meal that I like to make with my canned hamburger and my canned beans is a cornbread taco bake, and it's pretty much very similar to taco soup, only you don't add all the extra broth to it. Taco seasonings, you can add the frozen corn, some salsa for flavoring, and cook all that up. If you need a little extra liquid in there, that's fine too, so it doesn't end up being too dry, but it's more casserole-like. And then if you buy things like Jiffy cornbread mix or something like that, or what I do is I make my own cornbread mix, and so I will make up a single batch recipe of this and spread that over the top of my pan and bake everything in the oven. Pretty much I bake it according to the directions on the cornbread mix. Mine cooks at 425 degrees for 20 minutes, so that's probably what I would do the whole casserole at. Okay, my pork, and again, same thing with the hamburger. You could cook up a whole bunch of pork butt and shred it all up, put it in Ziploc bags, and you're good to go. So this I have used easily, just pull everything out of the jar, add barbecue sauce, and we've got barbecued pulled pork. Tonight I'm going to do something a little bit different. Remember my jar of pepperoncinis that I'm trying to use up. My intention is tonight is that I am going to take my big frying pan. I am going to saute up a bunch of onions and probably some celery in there, maybe some peppers, and when those get soft, I'm going to add my pork. I'm going to chop up some of those pepperoncinis. I'm going to add all that, and I'm going to add all the extra liquid from the jars of pork, and probably end up adding some broth to that as well. And once everything is heated through, I will probably just thicken it up with a little cornstarch slurry, so it's kind of all simmering in a good amount of gravy. You could serve it over rice, you could serve it over baked potatoes, or whatever you want. That is what I'm doing for tonight's dinner, to utilize up these pepperoncinis. I know it's not going to use them all up. I'm going to do 2 jars of the pork. I've got some company here, one of my kids, so I'm going to just do a big double batch of everything tonight. And yeah, I don't know. I'm still racking my brain with the pepperoncinis, so if you have any ideas, let me know. The other ideas with some of the ingredients that I have is like spaghetti. That's been a really big favorite of mine. I can my own sauce, and it's been really easy to cook up noodles, add the sauce, add a can of already cooked hamburger, and I have dinner just like that. I also found a couple things in my freezer, and one of those was some pizza dough. I made pizza back on 1/23. So back in January I made pizza. I only used half the recipe and I put the other half in the freezer. And I also have cheese in my freezer. So I try to really be limited on how much cheese I use, just in an effort to stay more frugal with my cooking. So I save my cheese for things like Mexican food or pizza, and but this needs to be used now, and it's definitely pizza's on the list. Okay, I almost forgot this one. I have a little bit of homemade Italian dressing that got pushed to the back in my refrigerator. I have that package of rotinis. I have the tuna, or I have the chicken. Maybe with the weather getting a little bit better, it is time to maybe make a pasta salad. So a Italian tuna, the rotinis mixed together in there, the dressing and all that, add some chopped up tomatoes and maybe some canned olives, which I also have in my pantry, and I have a quick and easy tuna pasta salad. Okay, what am I going to do with this can of crushed pineapple? I am going to make a pineapple cake with cream cheese frosting. That will utilize this and at least my half package of frosting. So one of my kids is here and he doesn't really do dairy, so I am going to just use the half package. I'll frost half the cake with this cream cheese frosting, and then the other half I'll leave so that he can enjoy it too. And that will utilize the package that's already open. I hope today's video helped give you guys some ideas of things that you can do with your pantry stash. I just made my pork and pepperoncini dish, and it smells good, and so I'm looking forward to having that for dinner tonight. The other thing about pantry meals is that they are so simple to make usually, and things go together pretty quick because you have all your ingredients pretty much all ready to go. I'm going to do a follow-up video on this soon, after I have made several of the meals that I shared my ideas with today, and that'll show you what I ultimately decide to do and give you some even more ideas on how it's done. Alright, you guys, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. That really helps my channel and helps me to know too, if you like these kinds of videos, I will keep making them. In any case, I hope you all have a great day, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye-bye.